Hey, it's NPR's Book of the Day. I'm Andrew Limbong. I was at the park the other day and I saw someone with a copy of the novel The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. It was a brand new copy, fresh from the bookstore a few blocks up. I chatted her up about it and it was for her book club, and she was excited to dig into it. I suspect she's not alone in her enthusiasm. I'd guess that more than a few of you have read it. For a book that came out almost a year ago now, it's become kind of a runaway hit nobody in the publishing industry saw coming. If you don't know, it's about a woman in her 70s, and it's told through the letters she writes to her friends, to strangers, and loved ones. Author Virginia Evans talks to Here and Now's Robin Young about the book's success and what it's done for the letter writing industry after the break.
This message comes from Jerry. Many people are overpaying on car insurance. Why? Switching providers can be a pain. Jerry helps make the process painless. Jerry is the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/NPR.
I know when the news goes into overload, I find refuge with good books. So a few minutes now on arguably the most popular novel in the country. It's the top fiction bestseller in the New York Times, the most requested book at the Chicago Public Library. The Arizona Republic lists it as one of the most anticipated books of 2026. But The Correspondent by Virginia Evans came out almost a year ago. It's spreading by people asking, as two of the book's characters do, "What are you reading?" That's the way they've ended letters to each other since childhood, and it's part of a trove of letters that tell this story, exchanges between 70-something Sybil Van Antwerp and her garden club, a customer service rep, or the suicidal son of a colleague. Famous authors like Joan Didion and Patchett, all of whom she befriends in letters she's been writing since childhood on perfect stationery with perfect pens. But an imperfect world is pressing in on her. We see that Sybil's controlled prose, as good as some of the authors she writes to, is covering a terrible grief as well as guilt over the loss of a child. As the real Ann Patchett writes about The Correspondent, it's a book about how one woman changes at a point where change seems impossible. My college roommate couldn't put The Correspondent down. That's when I picked it up. It is remarkably Virginia Evans' debut novel. Virginia, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And what has it been like to see Sybil Van Antwerp so embraced?
I mean, she's just soaring, isn't she, all over the world? I mean, I do think of her kind of as a real person, and it has been the surprise of a lifetime. You publish a novel and you've never published a novel before, and my expectation was that it would come out and we would sell some copies and that would be enough. Here we are, sort of selling and selling and selling
Right.
more copies than I ever imagined we would sell.
Because everybody's saying, "What are you reading?" And this is it. Look, who would you say Sybil is?
Oh, well, I would say Sybil is a woman who has lived with grief for a long time and disappointment, but that's not all that she is. She's funny and she's very smart. She's very kind and she's a little misguided at times.
And she has a kind of a quaint way of speaking. In one case, she's saying it's been a difficult year, but even still, one must, for respect of Auld Lang Syne, salute each annum with respect and ownership. I mean, there's just this, it's almost like an image of how an older woman might speak on Masterpiece Theater.
Mm-hmm. I think, the way Sybil curates her communication in letters is not, I imagine, necessarily how she speaks. There's something really beautiful about her habit of correspondence, but there is also something about it that she's always editing herself. Her written self is so proper and so perfectly articulated. And I think some of that is authentic, but some of that is her being very careful to keep it all looking quite perfect on the outside.
The edited self. Are people telling you they're writing more letters?
Yes, it is amazing. There's some statistics that there's been more mail circulating. That is so thrilling. I mean, there's something about the vehicle of letters in the story that provides this beauty, but also kind of this alter side. But I'm a letter writer. I think there is something so beautiful and permanent and timeless about receiving a letter and keeping a letter, and it is an artifact. If somebody reads this book and sends a letter that says something meaningful that uplifts someone in their life, I mean, that feels like the best possible result from all of this.
You could save the post office.
Let's do it. Let's save the post office.
Do you have, maybe a paragraph there?
Yes. All right, here it is. Yes. This is from an early letter in the novel, and Sybil is writing to Joan Didion.
As one does.
As one does. I know. She says, in response to your second, more complex question, I've sat and thought for nearly a week. How does it all feel to me now? I suppose there is this one part of it, which is Gilbert never left me, and the circumstances of his death have never for one day diminished. And as I age, it feels so strange that the majority of people with whom I come in contact don't have the slightest inkling that he ever lived. I had him for so much less time than I've lived without him, and yet his presence is enormous, though I keep it to myself. It is as if I have swallowed a hot air balloon, but try not to let on. And there she's talking about the death of her son when he was 8 years old.
Yeah. And that's how we learn about it, actually. Early on in the book, she writes to Joan Didion. But this is the kind of conversation she's not even having with her next-door neighbor.
Right.
In the first paragraph of your acknowledgments, we find out a real loss of your friends. You write, early on in writing this book, my dear friend's 6-year-old Wade died and time stopped. Can you tell us about Wade's impact?
Yes, I'm so happy that you asked. I love to be able to talk about Wade. We have these great friends, and their son became sick. He passed away. He was 6 years old, and it's hard to articulate, but it was an act of the imagination, to take it down, having lived with that sadness for 40 years. I became very, very thoughtful and careful about a parent or parents losing a child and what it can feel like and what it doesn't feel like. And they were so enthusiastic for me to include that in the acknowledgments. And I remember his mother saying to me, any person who gets to read my son's name, that is because they read it in the back of your book, that is an added gift to me in my life. It just lets his name be repeated and repeated and read and read. And she said, in some ways, he might be my child that's most well known because of being put in in the back of your book.
Well, and as you're saying with Sybil, people don't talk about it. She has no sense of her child having existed. So that's one incredibly powerful thread. But talk about why letters? Why a whole book with there's no narrator, which would be you, the author, saying, and then Sybil felt like this. It's all the letters. The letters to the famous writers, and also shout-outs in her letters to her best childhood friends. They reach asking, what are you reading? And, oh, look, there's one of our favorites, Stoner by John Edward Williams, or Travels with Charlie. And we mentioned Joan Didion and Anne Patchett. And is that you wanting to speak to those authors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love a book in letters. I think it's such a generous vehicle for the reader because there's so much space to turn the page and take a breath and change your perspective. It really started there, and then it was kind of this question of, okay, well, what story can you tell through letters? Like, whose story could be told in this quaint, old-fashioned way? It's interesting, you mentioned Stoner by John Williams. That book really was part of the inspiration behind this book because at the beginning of Stoner, there's that one-page sort of summary of his life for his obituary sort of at the beginning, and it seems very dull. And then the whole book is the story of his life and how compelling it is, even though it seems one-dimensional. It's not. That really was part of the inspiration with this book. Pick somebody out of the world who you think that would be a boring story to tell and see, can you show how that's not a boring story? Because nobody's story is boring. And so I thought, okay, if you take a woman who's in her 70s and 80s, she's retired, she's divorced, she lives alone, keeps to herself, pretty set in her ways, and can you tell the story of her life that is interesting.
As she says, mundane but miraculous,
Yes.
her life.
Yes.
And you throw so much at her in the end. She has suitors, coming out of the woodwork. She's an adoptee, and suddenly this mind-boggling idea of DNA searches. She has regrets about a case she handled in her stellar legal career, problematic relationship with her daughter. You're just pushing and pushing her.
I did throw a lot at her. Now that you listed it like that, I thought, oh, poor Sybil.
Yeah, but how do you know about that, by the way? Do you mind if I ask how old you are?
I'm 39. I don't mind you asking.
How do you know about that?
I don't know. I think there's so many wonderful women in my life who I've sat around listening to. I just love to be in conversation with people older than me. I just have enjoyed listening. Having people older than me kind of show me the way, and also imagination. And I was thinking about this actually recently, how much reading fiction gives you the empathy and the perspective to understand. I was just reading Anne Patchett's Whistler. Kind of the story is a lot about people aging and reflecting and having this hindsight on choices that they made, ways they treated other people, and just the sort of wisdom that comes with age. Maybe I just have an old soul. That's probably something that I've been told through my whole life.
Well, I think you got it right. So are you hearing from people that you got it right?
That was my biggest fear on publishing was I hope women in their 70s and 80s don't come to find me and say, you just didn't do it right. The great majority have come to me and said, you did it right. You got it right, which heartened. I mean, that gives me more pleasure than any other feedback is that feedback.
Well.
So thank you.
Well, and look what's happening. It's people telling people. She got it right. That is debut author Virginia Evans, her book, The Correspondent. Virginia Evans, thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Robin. I've been listening to your voice for so long, and it's such a pleasure to speak to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
This message comes from Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Craving your favorite restaurant? Alexa's on it. Free with Prime on your Amazon devices. Learn more at amazon.com/Alexa Plus. This message comes from LiveRight, publishers of Churn, The Tension That Divides Us and How to Overcome It. Author Claude Steele examines the stress people can experience in life's culturally diverse settings and how to build trust. Churn, available now.
It's Oscar season, and we watched the nominated movies, so you don't have to. We are making some bold predictions for Hollywood's biggest night, and we may help you win your Oscars pool. Listen to Pop Culture Happy Hour in the NPR app or wherever you get your podcasts.